Today on the What to Watch Guys, we'll tell you about a comedy about a comedian, a movie about a sleuth with a famous name, and a spin-off to an earlier era. All that plus our YouTube picks of the week and a whole lot more. So, gentlemen, here's a little trivia for you.
Uh-oh.
You probably get it, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. Which non-cartoon television series spawned the most spin-off series? Now, that doesn't count TV movies or remakes of the same series, only new separate series.
Star Trek.
All in the Family.
Okay, the selections are A, Law and Order,
Oh, you had
B, Beverly Hills 90210, C, Star Trek, or D, All in the Family.
That's funny. Well, I go with
I think
Star
you know
Trek.
our answers.
You already got two of them. The answer is Star Trek with
You're
11.
welcome.
It has 11.
Wow.
And
Well, yeah.
6 of them are still in production, are still being aired now.
That's crazy,
So,
because how long was that show on the first season? Like a couple years?
3
Three
years.
seasons.
3 years?
3
Three
seasons.
seasons.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then,
And
that's amazing.
And it has more. Now, some of these, like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, they've got like
Yeah,
20, you know. They just keep churning them out.
Right.
But for that, the most is... But Law and Order and Beverly Hills 90210 oddly had enough, and All in the Family had a lot. So anyway, my show this week is a spin-off, and more specifically, it's a prequel to the popular show on Paramount Plus called Yellowstone.
Oh, cool.
And Yellowstone is a very popular show, but this is called 1923.
Right.
Now, the show, like its parent series, chronicles the complex and often pretty brutal lives of the Dutton family on the Yellowstone Ranch in Montana.
So, what relation is this guy to the Yellowstone character?
Yeah.
I think it's grandfather, because it's set in the 20s, oddly enough, in an earlier generation, and it's kind of in the same way the chaos of the modernizing but still very Wild West. Harrison Ford plays the family patriarch, Jacob Dutton, and Helen Mirren plays his wife, Kara. And they are terrific. Now, as the season begins, we follow 3 separate storylines. They're kind of related in plot lines. The first one involves the Duttons, who are cattle ranchers, just like the new generation. They're engaged in something of a range war with this Scottish sheep herder over grazing rights, which is complicated by the fact that there is an ongoing drought in Montana in 1923. Now, this sheep herder is played by Jerome Flynn, whom you may remember as Bronn from Game of Thrones. Real thick Scottish accent.
Right.
He's brazenly encroaching on the Dutton land to graze his sheep, which is a problem for cattle ranchers, so Harrison Ford has to run him off, and of course, violence ensues.
What?
Another storyline takes place at a nearby boarding school for young Indian girls, where these fanatical nuns and priests abuse these girls terribly in their efforts to quote-unquote civilize them. And one of the girls remains defiant, and of course, a nasty, power struggle plays out. Very well done there. Now, the third plot involves another Dutton son, Spencer, who is played by heartthrob Brandon Sklenar. Now, Spencer is an ex-World War I hero who's now living in Africa and working as a hunter, ridding the indigenous populations of leopards and hyenas and other scary predators. He meets and falls in love with a beautiful young British girl, Alexandra, played by the lovely Julia Schleppner, and proceeds to steal her away from her British fiancé. So, there's a lot going on here, a lot of intertwining storylines. We get a taste of life and death in an era where life is often, as Thomas Hobbes put it, nasty, brutish, and short. The stories are engaging. The acting, I think, is superb, especially as you might expect from such heavy hitters as Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. They're both fantastic. The cinematography, especially the locations, are pretty spectacular. Overall, I think this is really one to watch. 1923 on Paramount Plus.
You know, it's kind of wild. Back 20 years ago and longer, you would almost never see movie stars do TV. Now it's it's everywhere. You know, famous movie stars are doing TV.
And they would never dream of it before.
Right. Well, before it was the 3 networks doing movie of the weeks.
That's right.
Right.
You know, and they were just getting character actors for that, and the movie stars were doing the big productions because plus the TVs couldn't afford the big stars. And now they could afford them with Netflix and HBO. And
is that what it is? Is a budget thing? Because if you think about it, like the TV shows on the networks are pretty bad, in my opinion, for the most part. Not
well,
all.
yeah, they don't take the time and produce them the way they do movies.
And you don't see movie stars doing those. You don't really see them doing NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox shows, do you? But
the streaming services have kind of given them a new avenue, and you do see that, because they've got the money for production values and so on. I think it's a good point.
Yeah. I think the networks realize that, and they're starting to put out some better shows. I was watching a show recently that was on network, and I was surprised at the quality.
Really?
But anyway, and I will cover some of that stuff in the future. I won't talk about it now because I can't remember which show it was. Anyway.
Who's next?
So do you have a show to do now?
Me?
Yeah.
Playing it by ear?
No.
Rolling the dice?
I have a movie, not a TV show.
All right, that's our show for... Oh, no.
Go for it. What
anyway,
do you got?
The show I'm doing, it's on Netflix, and it's called Enola Holmes.
Oh, yeah.
Starring from Stranger Things. The little girl is now a young lady, and her name is Molly Bobby Brown, and it stars her and Henry Cavill, Superman. And God, they do a great job. Although Henry Cavill doesn't have a lot of screen time, but it stars her as Sherlock Holmes' little sister. And what happens is her mother disappears, so she goes to search for her mother, and she basically gets into a little bit of trouble, and then her brother gets involved, and she outwits her brother a couple times. Anyway, it's mysterious. It's funny. It was a great watch. In fact, it has a sequel which I watched, which is also good. But you got to watch the first one. It's great. Enola Holmes. It's on Netflix, and it's starring Molly Bobby Brown.
That's got to be a Southern name, right? Molly Bobby.
You would think.
No, she's English. She's British.
Oh, she's English. Really? Okay,
she's British.
Maybe Southern England. I don't know.
And that's the thing. In Stranger Things, she plays a little teenager, and here she plays a teenager, but now she's more of a young lady in this than she was in Stranger Things, which is true because also she's just especially the second one especially. She just recorded this recently, and the first Stranger Things was 5-6 years ago.
Oh, at least
she could have recorded it, 6-7 years ago.
6-7.
I mean, all those kids are growing up.
Yeah,
right,
definitely.
That's right.
All the boys.
Well, people love the whole Sherlock Holmes. It's almost like a franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
There's some great stuff. The whodunits. It's really cool.
And the books
Stephen Moffat. Stephen Moffat did a Sherlock Holmes series on BBC, which starring what's his name? Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, it was terrific.
That was a great show.
That's a terrific series.
That might be my favorite out of the whole.
That might be my favorite too. But I haven't seen Enola Holmes yet.
He was kind of neurotic in that one.
Well, it's different. It's different. The Sherlock Holmes, the series was more of a drama.
Well, guys,
I think Enola Holmes, it's more of a comedy. It's very funny, I think.
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is back.
Ooh,
5th and final season, right, on Amazon Prime. I've watched every season. I think it's probably one of the top 5 shows on TV right now. And it has the Emmys to show. It's won more than 20 Emmys. So it's a very well done show. Very funny, has dramedy. This is, like I said, it's 5th and final season. They just dropped 3 episodes on April 14th, and then they're releasing one a week for a while. By the way, everybody's doing that now. You know what I think it is? This is just my theory. At least one of the reasons. I think what happens is they have a popular show and they dump 10, 12 episodes, and people would jump on to Netflix or Prime or whatever and get the free week and binge the whole show.
And they binge it,
and then they bail out and they didn't pay any money. So now they're stretching it out over 7-8 weeks. So that
But by that time, if people are hooked onto the show and they want to watch the rest of it,
and they stay on. Maybe that's just right here.
Well,
anyway,
that's an interesting theory.
you guys see the first 4 seasons? It is really well
I've
done.
seen them. They're very, very funny.
Very, very funny. Very well done. For those of you who haven't seen any of it yet, it's essentially about a woman goes through a divorce. Her husband, among other things, is a struggling stand-up comic. She takes the stage after he leaves her, and she's hilarious. So she pursues a career as a stand-up. So this show follows her career. So it takes place in the 50s.
Right.
She's this Jewish housewife named Midge Maisel. And the Jewish stuff in this show is hilarious. The fact
It's
that
really funny.
they really focus on that culture, New York Jewish culture, which is so funny anyway. So many great comedians have come out of that culture. And it is really hilarious.
Yeah, and they all ended up in the Catskills.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Borscht, what do they call it? The
Borscht
circuit?
Belt.
Yeah. Well, so she, again, it's the 50s, and the thing about her comedy is it's very raunchy. So she's struggling with the fact that she's really funny, but she can't get gigs like on TV shows doing Ed Sullivan and that because they think she's too raunchy.
She's crossing the line.
Yeah, it's got an amazing cast. Now, she's kind of like the female Lenny Bruce, And in fact, Lenny Bruce is in the show. No,
he's a
real
character.
Lenny Bruce,
Yeah.
he's dead. There's a character of Lenny Bruce, and she has a romantic relationship with him. And that's a complicated interweaving part of the plot throughout the whole show, which is interesting. And they get into that more deeply in the final season, I can see already. So the cast is incredible. You've got this Rachel Brosnahan. She plays Maisel, and she's very good. To me, the funniest people in the show are Tony Shalhoub, who was he plays this neurotic Jewish father. He's so funny.
Oh yeah, he's
and
hilarious.
he was Monk, and it's very similar in
Yeah.
characters because Monk obviously was a guy who had a lot of emotional issues, and Tony plays this character of Abe Weissman perfectly. But my favorite, and I think most people's favorite, is Alex Bornstein. She plays Susie Meyerson, who's the manager and business partner of Miriam, and she gets the best one-liners. She is a very kind of mannish woman, and I don't mean that in any kind of negative way. She plays that part so well, with the understanding this is the 50s. So, she's kind of a woman in a man's world as a business manager. She's tough. She cusses like a sailor, and she makes the show really funny. But
Really
also,
funny.
Kevin Pollak is in it as Mitch's ex-father-in-law, and I love that guy. I think he is hilarious in movies.
His character is hilarious.
Oh, it's really funny.
I saw him, gosh, it was in the late 1980s in San Francisco at a place called The Punchline. He
Doing
did a
stand-up?
stand-up routine.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
He killed it.
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. He's a great impressionist.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's really good impressionist, and he's really funny. His stand-up's
I
great if
didn't
you
know
go on
that.
YouTube and look
I've
him
been
up.
been a big fan of his ever since then.
That's terrific.
One of the great things about the show, though, is like all really successful TV dramedies, it's not only funny, it's poignant. And there are moments that moved you. They deal with a lot of serious subjects certainly from the 50s. The war, the Cold War. They deal with things like divorce and sexism and anti-Semitism and all of that. I think it's one of the best shows on TV. If you haven't seen the first 4 seasons, start watching them now so you can get into the 5th season and final season, they say. That's The Marvelous Miss Maisel on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. Well, as always, here on the What to Watch Guys, we like to tell you about all the great content that you can find right here on YouTube. So here's this week's YouTube picks, and we'll start with Jay's pick. Jay?
I've got a YouTube page called Be Smart. And Be Smart is hosted by a guy named Joe Hansen, who's a PhD. And he answers questions and does little clips on things like, science. And it's really interesting, and he does it really well. But some of his subjects are just weird stuff, man. And why does an igloo keep you warm, or little stuff like that, and what is an absolute unit, science stuff and that kind of thing. So if you like, what is the world's greatest flood, and these are just some of the titles. He has got, he's got 4.8 million subscribers, so it's a very popular channel, and almost 500 million views. So check out Be Smart right here on YouTube.
Well, those are the kinds of informative video channels that you get on YouTube. Things that, stuff you never would have bothered to ask, but now you know the answers to. That's great. Yeah.
So it's good for all the nerds and all of us.
All nerds and all of us. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's like all the nerd channels on cable and all condensed. You can watch them anytime you want to.
6-minute videos.
One of the fascinating things that they do with videos nowadays is incorporate artificial intelligence, and they use it with graphic imaging, digital special effects, etc. And on YouTube, you can find videos that use AI to bring old historical portraits to life.
I love that stuff.
And one of the best ones is called Mystery Scoop. And on Mystery Scoop, you find dozens of videos in which an artist uses AI tools to create modern, very lifelike versions of famous or not so famous people. Sometimes they start with an old black and white photograph. Then they colorize it. And the colorizing nowadays, you remember how it was in the old Turner Classic movies.
Yeah.
It was kind of cheesy. But now it's much more true to life. And then they use photo imaging to render them in 3D. And then, using AI, they give the image motion so that the face in the portrait will smile, blink its eyes, tilt its head, sometimes even speak. It's eerie.
It's crazy,
and it's amazing all at the same time.
So you could take Chris Rock's voice and put it on Vincent Van Gogh's self-portrait.
Sure,
if you wanted to.
If you wanted to do that,
I've seen like Abe Lincoln and Billy the Kid and all this stuff, and to see Abe Lincoln like look alive, like a person in color, and and move his face, movements,
and smile.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
It's
really
funny,
cool.
And some of the videos are not even photographs; they start with sculptures. So a famous bust of Julius Caesar, or that famous Egyptian one of Nefertiti. It appears as a living, breathing person.
It's crazy,
really
man.
Something. Or they can do the same thing with the painted portraits. People like Rembrandt or Henry VIII is one of my favorite ones. And then they'll show him if he was alive today in modern clothing, and or women with current day makeup, and you get an idea of what people from history, even ancient history, actually looked like. It's really remarkable.
It is.
So
Very cool.
I just love sitting and watching these, and it's something I think anyone can enjoy. Take a look at Mystery Scoop on YouTube.
Well, if you want some laughs, there's I think one of the funniest YouTube channels, which is basically a podcast, and it's called Two Bears, One Cave, starring best friends Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura. Now, these guys are they're both headline comedians, if you're not familiar with them.
Hilarious.
But together, they're hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys they're just tearing them to tell stories of just how their week went.
Yeah, it's not scripted or anything, right? It's just like,
no.
Yeah, it's just off the top of their head. It's hilarious.
And the cool thing about it is they now sometimes it can be raunchy, but sometimes one of them is on tour and they can't make it. They got a dentist appointment or something. They get I think last time Tom Segura couldn't make it. Bert Kreischer said he was getting his vasectomy reversed.
One comedian is funny. You get two comedians together, and they just riff off each other. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but when one isn't there, they get guest hosts. Some other great comedians. But recently, I just saw a episode with with Bert Kreischer and Louis C.K.
Ooh,
came in to guest host. And he sort of took a hiatus.
You think?
Yeah, he's back
for a while. He's back, and oh my God, Louis C.K. was hilarious.
Really, I got you.
Oh my God,
He's funny anyway, all the time. Did they
he's
talk
just so
about
funny.
his
He's
little incident, or did they leave that alone?
No, they left it alone.
His lawyers probably don't want to talk about
Probably best. Yeah.
Yeah.
The less
Yeah, well-
said about that, the better.
Well, he didn't do anything. I just want to say he didn't do anything criminal. There's no.
Yeah.
He's not up against legal
charges, yeah.
So
Right,
you know,
right.
He made
Just something probably a bad idea.
Bad choice.
It was a bad idea. Bad judgment. Bad judgment. Let's say. Okay. Anyway, it's a great show. Two Bears, One Cave. You got to check it out. It's on YouTube. They put out a new episode every week. It's great. Check it out.
I am going to check it out. And of course, all of these YouTube channels and other shows you'll find links to in the show description below. And of course, give us your comments and let us know what you think about all these. We would love to hear from you. So, give us your thoughts, your questions, suggestions, anything you might have to say in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on social media. And of course, we will see you next time on the What to Watch Guys. Take it from the What to Watch Guys.